Are you tired of the old ways of trying to recruit friends and family to your MLM? Tactics just don't work anymore. Have you wanted to quit and say the heck with this, but something still gives you that burning desire to rock this business? All you needed was the way. This is Network Freaking Marketing Radio.
Today on Network Freaking Marketing Radio, we're going to have a chat with Harry Spaight. Harry, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Hey, Ryan, I'm doing great. Just having a blast, living the dream. I was just out in my backyard shooting photographs for my web page for raising money for the Arc of Palm Beach County. So I'm dressed in wild pants, believe it or not.
Well, in Palm Beach, that's like the thing, buddy. I mean, I've been to quite a few events out there, and if you don't dress, it's a different dress code. Let's put it that way.
It's a different dress code, yes. So the wilder the pants, the better for this particular fundraiser. So I'm wearing these flowery pink and red and white pants, which if you could only imagine, I'm walking around the house, my kids are looking at me, it's like, Dad, what are you doing?
Did you go shopping on Worth Avenue for those?
No. That's a little bit out of the price league. Yes. Thank you, Amazon.
True story. We have customers at one of our businesses on right around Worth and all that. And I walked across the street to go to the surf shop that's in that area. And I'm not going to Worth Avenue, for people that don't know it, is like the Rodeo Drive of
exactly
south of West Palm Beach. And I walked in there and I'm like, there's a good break right down the street that a lot of people don't know about, and we go there a lot. And I was like, a belt was like $200, and I'm like,
yeah,
it's kind of funny.
You're not finding deals for those of us who are not billionaires.
If you guys want to go shopping, it's a great place to go. There's a lot of great stores, but just get ready to drop $1,000 anywhere you go.
Yes, for a belt and a hat, maybe.
Yeah,
for the accessories. So,
Harry, you and I met up a couple weeks ago just from doing some, organic lead gen like we both do.
Mm-hmm.
Both you're in the technology business side, and you run a very successful podcast called Lead, Sell, Grow. And we found some commonalities about just business and life in general, and said, hey, let's record it and see what we get, and just kind of let it fly. Tell me a little bit about Lead, Sell, Grow, bud.
Yeah, so Lead, Sell, Grow has stemmed from a good friend of mine, my podcast co-host, Eric Conovalov. And I've known Eric for a number of years, and he's one of those John Maxwell trained motivational guys that's always high energy, former Marine, gets up at 5 o'clock in the morning and is in the gym and all that stuff. So he and I have developed a friendship over the years after we worked together. So this past April, in our world of the COVID shutdown, he says, hey, Harry, do you want to do a podcast together? So, of course, why wouldn't I want to do a podcast other than not having even the thought of doing one before? I said, yes, let's go ahead and do it. And, so far, so good. We've had quite a good range of guests, a number of authors, a couple of CEOs of nonprofits here in South Florida.
What do you guys talk about? What is the content? Lead, Sell, Grow is a lead generation strategy? Is it strategy? What is the
The lead is about leadership.
Okay.
So that's a great question. A lot of people have thought that we're driving leads, which I guess is also just a sidebar out of that. But it really is all about those who are in positions of leadership and understanding their leadership styles and lessons they've learned over the years. And it's tied into the human experience so that we just don't want to promote leadership. We want to promote good leadership and how that's tied into helping other people. So that's the lead part.
You used a big word, human experience.
Yes.
I take that somewhere. What is your definition of human experience?
Yeah, so I'm a huge believer of that we're all connected, that we're all a lot more alike than not alike.
Okay.
Right. So we all have, I mean, in general, I mean, unless, the extremely weird in society, but in general, we have similar values. We all want good things in our lives. We all care about each other, family, neighbors, values, that all matters. And so we wanted to bring, when you're selling or leading, we wanted to bring in that human connection and how what we're doing and what others are doing are impacting others, if
I
that
don't
makes
think there's a
sense.
better time today. I think human connection is being missed with COVID and all of us having to do virtual meetings. There's a lot of people that just yearn for just being able to get out there and talk to someone. You're in your other career is you're in a heavy sales environment. Real sales, like real sales.
Indeed.
And I've always said the guys that cut their teeth in the office equipment industry do exceedingly well. It really is amazing breeding ground for some of the best salespeople I've ever seen in the industry. Do you agree?
Yeah. And, that's why that's part of, I think, our connection is that, both of us have a couple of sales minds, and we both are trying to continually to get better and to improve ourselves. And I love the fact that you said, yes, I'm familiar with that industry, and I, had some experience with it. And, when people tell me that, there's an immediate connection because we have gone through some muddy brawls together, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure maybe not yourself, but I guarantee you I played a couple times against some of the guys on your team back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Depending on how long you were doing it. But, the human experience, I like the way you just rolled that out because I think people today in the world are lacking that. Leaders, there's a good amount of leaders out there, but people in leadership positions, I think, need to more learn to connect with people and not just be a talking head. Do you agree?
Oh, that's just such a valuable point that you raised. I am reading this book about leadership. I'm going to give a shout out to the author, Brian Cunningham. Um, this book on leadership is really, it's about the evolution. I'm sorry.
What's the title?
I think it's called The Leadership Revolution.
Okay. Brian.
So what he does in the book is he goes back in time to the industrial age when leadership was really just authoritarian. And he brings up the points that most of us are aware of these authoritarian leaders. I mean, we've all had them somewhere in our career. We've had bosses that say, I don't care what you think, we're doing it my way. It's my way or the highway, and just do it, right? And then they wonder why they have turnover. So you have those types of leaders, and then you have other leaders that are constantly trying to use information to prove that they're right, right? So this is why I'm right, so we have to do it my way. So those are like knowledge leaders, and that evolves into leadership that is around coaching. Well, I kind of thought that coaching was like, that's what you wanted to be as a leader. But I'm learning at my age, which is still a shock that I'm still learning. No, I'm just kidding. That's just really the third phase. There are other phases that continue to follow, which is about transformation. So when you said that there's just a lot of talking heads, viewing and having self-awareness, the awareness quotient. So when we think about emotional intelligence, like that's lacking with a lot of people, right? So they just tell people what to do. They don't understand what the emotional makeup of various members of their team are. And, take that one more step is just that self-awareness. Like, what do I look like when I'm saying these things? Or, how are people viewing me, not just you having the emotional intelligence to understand other people, right?
It's amazing the way you just put that because you do you have a coaching practice on the side. It's just like I as well as myself. And I recently just came off of we filmed it back in March, a reality show in the business sector, and going through a full immersion for 5 days in long hours. I'm talking starting at 7 in the morning and not quitting to about 9, 10 o'clock at night filming, and with 25 contestants, and going and seeing top-notch coaches that are making millions of dollars a year in their practice.
Yeah.
Working through people, and you're only getting maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes, maybe an hour total in the whole process. But to see what people go through and seeing them break down, it's a part of what coaches, the good coaches, really do. They'll hone in on what is blocking you, and try to get you to release it in some form. You know, you've probably paid for coaches before, and they're just giving sales advice. I'm like, I can go get that.
Sure.
And the good ones, really, it's, you know what it is? It's more listening.
Yeah.
Listening and watching where, you know, when that person takes the breath, you know, they're telling the truth. Or if you hit them hard with a question, they're like, they have to think a second.
Sure.
But where I was going with this was it was interesting. You know, it just started airing 2 weeks ago. It's called Play to Win. It's done by the Higman Group, and it's in limited release on the internet right now because it's getting shopped to network. But
Awesome.
They're using it as a platform for some stuff they're doing for a virtual conference. But it was interesting watching myself on camera. And, you know, I've watched myself on podcasts and all that stuff, but being around other people and seeing how my dynamic is around people, it's the most amazing learning thing I've ever seen in my career.
What stands out as a couple of things that you learned about yourself watching yourself? That's really interesting.
The first thing was when I was in one of the first, there's only 2 episodes out, so I haven't seen the whole process yet, but how direct I can be. Well, you know, I'm a very cut to the point, but I'm very positive and upbeat, and I speak fast. I use my hands, and I was quoted in there as I could be a bulldozer.
Oh, okay. Now, is that a compliment?
Well, I think in leadership, you have to have the confidence. I think the top leaders have more confidence than the bottom leaders, personally. You know, if you look at the Grant Cardones, you look at the Maxwells, you know, look at Tony Robbins, they carry a level of confidence that nothing is going to fear them. You know, they're not afraid to walk into any situation. It was a panel of 3 that were judging this, and it was the ladies that referred to me as a bulldozer. And it was interesting, so it kind of made me sit back, and I've had to watch that segment like 4 or 5 times to kind of understand the mannerisms. Now, it's footage, but it's interesting to see it come back to you. And it makes you really think, like, how do you, you know, anybody who's listening to this podcast, I want you to take a second today, whether you're driving or whatever, and I want you to just ask yourself, how do I appear to other people?
Oh, that's a great question.
I mean, think about it. You know, how many times have you been in a situation and it's not going right, and maybe we get hot-headed?
Never. Come on now. Really?
Oh. I chewed somebody out the other day, and I actually literally called them back afterwards and said, I got to apologize to you. I'm sorry for what I said to you.
Yeah, we all, I mean, it's great that you do that, right? I mean, it's hard to completely control our emotions, but once you do, and then you, or once you don't, and then you are smart enough to make the call and are humble enough, that goes a long way.
And I think it was something stupid, like someone on Comcast or something like that.
Yeah.
You're on hold for an hour, like, come on, let's get this damn thing fixed. But, you know, it's interesting. Have you ever had the chance to watch yourself like in footage like that before?
No, and it's really intriguing. I don't know if I'd want to.
I would love to see, you know, boiler room sales meetings. I think it would be an amazing tool for any sales organization that has a weekly meeting.
Yeah.
To put 2 or 3 cameras up, or pay a production company to come in and film for a couple days.
Yeah.
And just watch the dynamic. You know, I automatically learned that I'm a rah-rah guy. That comes from me coaching Little League and getting everybody fired up and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then you have the introverts and the extroverts. And it's interesting to see the synergy. And I think it can help managers and stuff understanding where people are coming from. When you're up against quotas and stuff like that, people are going to interpret things differently. Don't you agree?
Oh, I totally do. The whole fascination about what you just said with the different personality types. And, I think I think there's a lot of similarities, a lot of commonality between you and I. And I looked at some of the people that you mentioned as great leaders. But then I think along the way, somewhere in my life, I just started thinking about, how do I serve these people differently? How do I serve better? And the confidence factor, I believe in, like what you mentioned, you've got to have it. But something that really stood out in me is that when you try something new like this, where you're really focused on how do I serve others, you become less judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
So the awareness factor that I have with my sales team, for instance, is before I would say something like, well, why aren't you doing this? Right? What's holding you back from doing this?
Mm-hmm.
To a completely understanding, getting inside a person's mind, what challenges they're having. And instead of saying, why aren't you doing this, is really figuring out what challenges they're having and adopting a new practice, for instance. What's preventing them? What angle are they looking at this from, where a change for me, who a person who I don't mind change at all. I actually enjoy change, but not everyone's like me, right? I mean, you think just because you're you, I mean, do you have the same challenge? Because you think a certain way, do you just think that people in general think like you, or do you think that people think differently?
It's interesting. In my personal life, my wife would say, "You're not listening to me a lot."
Yeah,
Or
I've had that.
Or she'll say to me, because we've been going through like a little challenge recently, trying to figure out communication styles, and I've been doing a lot of self work, and some things, some things work, some things don't work. But for understanding people, I'm always one to, I will always voice my opinion, but I will never. I'm opening to hearing other people's views, because a lot of times I will do something and I'll miss a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you're type A personality and you're juggling multiple things, you program your mind to pick up the key points, and sometimes you miss the little point that's the big point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And listening, it's difficult. It is, for me to change my pattern. It's been, it's a work in progress. In the business environment, I'm much more docile. Now, if there's a view and I'm hardlined on it, and I know with my certainty that I'm right, I'll fight for my position.
Sure.
I'll be the guy that's out there like saying, hey, it is, just being the way I am.
Mm-hmm.
But not trying to be a tough guy, but just trying to be objective, And
Well, I think that goes with your personality type.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my personality type is, I'm an influencer. If I go back to the disc, I'm an ID.
I haven't done that in ages. I got to jump.
Right. And so I'm a person that likes to influence, and I like the team atmosphere. So I'm always looking at, like just going back to that conversation about respected leaders, I used to doubt my leadership style, because I would look at some of these leaders and they were so confident. And I said, well, I need to be more like that. But then I just said, you know what? That's really not who I am. I'm the person that's going to serve. And I didn't view it as leadership, more as serving. And then as you read about servant leadership, the light bulb goes on and you say, well, that's who I am. Right. So I was in servant leadership before I really knew what that term meant. But where so as building up a team and, trying to get people to collaborate or to make change, then it really is about listening. It really is about helping, because those people have different backgrounds. They're not all type A personalities. They don't necessarily all have the same background of being driven to success, or maybe they're not natural readers. Maybe they were never instructed about, hey, the value of education should be ongoing in my life, and I should be trying to become a better human being, a better father, husband, spouse, mother, child, whatever, right? Not everyone's like that. So how do we help those people? And that's sometimes it's pulling, right? And just kind of you're pulling by opening them up with a good use of questions. And, it's not easy, but that's just something I take special delight in those types of challenges.
You're a parent just like I am. I've got 3 little boys, and you have some kids. Well, how many kids you got?
I have 3 as well, 2
Okay.
boys and a girl.
And, I coach Little League sports and stuff like that. And I see something that it kind of, I guess the right word is alarms me today.
Mm-hmm.
That there's a lot of kids that don't have confidence.
Yeah.
And I think as parents, we're missing something. And all the parents out there, kind of listen to where this goes, because confidence instilling into your child is, I think, one of the most important parenting tools you can do, because it prepares them for the world. The world is a nasty place sometimes, In today's age, you could be black banned if you fly a Trump flag. You could be looked at crazy if you got a Biden flag in your yard, Everybody's so quick to judgment, and being able to build up that thicker skin and just knowing that they can do anything that they want in this world if they put their mind to it. And I think parents are missing a lot of that of, you have the ability to be anything you want if you put your mind in it at any point in your life.
Yeah, that's definitely something that is extremely valuable. I read this book. It's a bright yellow book. I forgot the name of it, but it was.
Or was it 10X? It was Gary Vee?
No, this one was about, in the book, there was a lesson in there about a professor, and in his class mentally, he gave, or she gave, everyone A's before this year started. So they viewed people differently. Instead of, viewing people as a D student, like Harry Spaight, they view, just think about what that does to the students, right? Because now everybody is bright.
Yep.
Right. And so with that mindset, I started trying to give everyone an A. And even when you do that with your kids, which one of us as parents, when we look at a report card, where do our eyes go? Right? We go to the lowest grade and we say, well, what went wrong there? Instead of celebrating, everything else that is great, we still say, well, you're deficient here. And that, simple things like that are confidence destroyers, right? You're never satisfied, right? That's what the kid comes away with. I can get 4 out of 5 A's, but Dad, you're going to find the B or the C, and you're never happy with what I'm doing. That's what they walk away with, even though I might think I'm really encouraging them by saying, get that C up to a B, buddy. And, next year, whatever, we're going to keep making progress, right?
Do you celebrate on your sales team the little wins?
Yeah, absolutely. The little wins, like just getting an appointment into a nice account, right? Solving a problem. It's not just about the sale with me. Well, so why do you raise that? It's a great question.
Because I think in parenting too, in our busy lives, we miss out on so many little win opportunities that can execute to amazing things. I even find it, zillion things going on. sometimes you're just like, oh, did I miss that? And you
Yeah.
go back in your head, you play your day back, and you're kind of like, oh, why did I? It's just little things. Because especially in network marketing,
Yeah.
the little wins are big because
And
you're working with people that have, the coaching I do is in that marketplace with our teams and stuff like that. When we get somebody new, when they get their first sale, whether they make $5 or $10, that's maybe the first time they've ever made a dime without having to do something,
yeah.
and seeing residual income coming in. And getting that pop out to the team is fast, and getting people so many people just want to hear you say to them, you're doing a good job, or congratulations, or I'm rooting for you. That's all it takes. They just want someone to notice them.
Well, in building the pipeline of potential buyers in sales is not easy, right? That's probably the hardest job there is. And then when someone gets their first sale, especially when it's a small sale, and they're comparing, I think it's human nature that we compare ourselves to others.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so our first sale might be, a few dollars, relatively speaking. And many will just say, well, I got a sale, but it really wasn't that much. Right. So they're already self-defeating because they're comparing themselves to someone else.
Yep.
Right. And that's a real challenge. So how do you help people yourself when they kind of go negative on that?
It's a tough
where they, yeah.
It's all about that's where leadership kicks in. That's where the culture, so many people don't understand how big culture is in this world.
Mm-hmm.
You can walk into, if you've ever been cold calling, and I'm sure you as yourself in your career and me,
yeah,
we hit the streets, even in our advertising business. It's a lot of still cold calling today because you can't even find people, and the culture of how the employees react or your first experience tells you a lot about what's going on in that organization, whether it's a toxic environment or if it's a team environment.
Yeah, totally. So the celebration and building culture takes forever. It takes a long time to build it and it takes a little time to destroy it, right?
Yep.
But the celebrating those small wins, that's a fun culture.
What are your, if you had to go back and say, what are the 3 biggest skills to make it in business today? And let's say sales, what would you say they are?
Well,
and I'm going to ask before you answer that, do you think sales can be taught?
Yeah. So I think sales can be taught, definitely. I think when people say that they're not naturally a salesperson, they think of the person that speaks a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the person that speaks a lot or is a talker, they're not a good salesperson generally. It's the great listeners that are the great salespeople. So helping people to listen, and then just asking skilled questions, I think those things can be taught. And then asking for the order. I think, one of the challenges that some have is that they're afraid to ask for the order. And all we're really encouraging people to do is you're helping them.
Yep.
Right. If you believe in your product and your solution, whatever it is, these people will be better off or have better lives based on buying whatever that is from you. So just be brave and ask for the order because ultimately it will help them. So
we teach 2 different schools here. We teach, there's a portion of, especially today with a lot of online stuff that we do, we teach build relationships, and then we build cut to the chase, get through the bullshit, and let's ask the question.
Okay.
There's 2 different schools of thought. Especially on the online world, if you're prospecting LinkedIn, if you're prospecting Facebook, because there's a massive books of business there. So many organizations are underestimating, and I don't care what industry, whether you're selling copiers, selling orange juice, seltzer, or advertising, there's tactics to cut through the clutter, to get to the question, and either A, it's a prospect, or B, we're going to move on, you know?
Right.
And I'm curious about your school of thought in regards to, do you think it's important to build up that relationship, or do you think it's better to be very direct, and the person usually will respect your time for being direct or respect that process? There's a way to it. I'm not trying to come off as arrogant, but I'm trying to say, you know, if you're talking to someone online and send them a text message, let's say, hey, I'm in so-and-so, I do this for a living, we're looking to expand our business in XYZ area. Are you open to talking about that? If not, no big deal. Something to that effect. What's your thought?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I struggle with the same thing, let's be honest. So you don't want to waste your time in life, right? So we only have so much time. But is the conversation where, I mean, I like the question that you just asked, you know, this is what I'm doing. Are you open for a conversation? And, you know, the answer is going to be no, and you move on a lot of times, right? So you haven't really built the relationship there. And I think that's fine for what that is. But if it's someone that you're like, you know, on LinkedIn, especially, I feel like there's value in knowing thought leaders and people that are making things happen. Even though they may never buy from me, I feel like I'm going to learn something from them. And the people that are connected with them or see value in them, I feel like there's a good chance that somebody in their network is going to like me, and building relationships with those people, I feel there is value. What do you think?
I agree with you there. I think cutting loose I think in business, when I was in the field working with different companies, I had my all-stars that I called it. That was my big companies. They were the big fish. They're the ones that I knew I could crack a quarter in one hit. And I knew my fastest way to hit my number was to get at least one of those every 6 months.
Yeah.
So I prospected the heck out of those guys.
Yeah.
But I built up, but I got in. I was a different tactic when I worked on those type of accounts. I knew everybody. I knew the PO guy. You know, if we were at Caterpillar, I knew the guy in the purchasing department. You know, I was like a virus going through the office because I knew everyone.
Sure.
And, you know, I joked around and we would go out for beers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That level of there's different levels, but the small fish that were out there, I was cutting loose very quickly. Now, not to say I don't think any relationships ever burned, but I would ask the questions, and if it didn't fit, they got put in another box.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I just turned and burned. And they're asked, like, how are you going through so many prospects? I'm like, the methodology I'm using is just either they see the light or they don't. You're asking them point blank. Why so many people juggle. I hate when I get onto an exploratory call with someone and they just won't tell me what they want.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking for some reason. Please just, you know, I'll ask them, what do you need? How can I help?
Yeah.
You know, where do you see yourself in 3 to 5 years? What can we do?
No, that's great. You know, I just had a conversation on one of our podcasts with a fellow by the name of Ben Starling. And I don't know if you know, do you know him?
No.
All right. So he is a massive fundraiser, and he's worked for the folks, the Hobby Lobby people, and helped with the former Miami Dolphin, Huizenga. Yeah.
Wayne?
Yes. Yeah. So he's tight with billionaires, right?
Big boys.
So, and he's helped with one of the fundraising missions he was on a few years ago was the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C. So he is a player's player when it comes to raising funds. So in our conversation, he was speaking about something that's very valuable for salespeople. Are you hanging around people that can afford what you're selling?
Oh, so true.
Right? I mean, it's just, I mean, think about it, right?
Especially in the network marketing industry. You
know?
There's a saying, you're at a gas station, right? And a Mercedes-Benz pulls up to fill up gas, and the next one's like a beat-up Toyota.
Yeah.
And statistically, the answer is which way is the person going to go? to try to prospect. And answer-wise, statistically, from all the studies, 90% are going to go to the Toyota.
Yeah. And why is that, do you think?
From what I understand, the way I get it is they don't believe in themselves enough that their value, that person has a different mentality or something. And, out of every multimillionaire I know, and, I've got some friends that, recently passed that were owners of Amway.
Yeah.
Big. He owned Orlando Magic, but you could sit down with the old guy and just like, Jeff was just, Devos was just totally down to earth.
Yeah.
These guys, they're just human beings.
Exactly.
So what if there's two, the way I used to joke with people is this, is that nice car, there's one or two scenarios. Either A, he can afford it, or B, he can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, especially in South Florida,
Right. Yeah. That's so true.
What do you think?
Regarding what in particular?
Why do you think people go towards the?
Because it's because they're intimidated, perhaps, right? They may not have commonality. They may not think that person has challenges as well, but it's all prejudged, right?
It's you're prejudging but what sucks is that person is prejudging themselves.
Yeah. That's definitely the case too.
The decision, I'm not going to, and then you just sit in your car like, why didn't, I used to always joke with my buddy, I'm like, go up, I was always the guy that would go talk to the girls and all that stuff. I had no problem walking up this way. And you're like,
I'm not surprised.
And like, why didn't you go up to her? He's like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And then
I was that guy.
And then I'm like, what do you need, a wing guy? I'm like, come on. I'm like, it doesn't look good if I'm going up there and talking to her.
I needed a collaborator.
It's just,
no, that's funny. But again, it's a personality type. But that's
it's people though. People just forget that we're all just human beings.
Yeah. Well, that's it, right? That's the human connection.
Yeah.
Right. So when I was talking to Ben, and when he got the job where he started originally meeting billionaires on Palm Beach Island, he was a college kid working part-time in the summer for someone who knew all the billionaires that did fundraising. And, that person who was probably in their 70s or maybe early 80s at the time when Ben was young, would bring him in to meet the billionaires. And Ben was, why would they want to meet me? I'm just a kid from, Pahokee, wherever it was in mid-state Central Florida in farm country. And he didn't have the confidence at that time. But before long, these people were looking out for him. And, he was calling them friends, on their deathbeds, basically in their 90s, there was Ben Starling talking to these people. So just, it's an amazing thing where if you let go of what your perception of other people is, and whether that be race, right? Whether it be political, you just have conversations, you'll find that people are not that different than you are.
Let go of perception. That is a line and a half to write down. Let me ask you this one. When it comes to, I think becoming a millionaire is actually probably pretty easy. But when you hit the B mark, billionaire, what do you think separates those guys from the millionaires?
Yeah, another great question. I think a lot about in life is, in my view, is how much do you want to give up to achieve something, right? Nothing comes without cost.
Exactly.
Right? So the people that are superstars, look at the owner of the Washington Redskins, right? That guy is worth billions. I'm not going to mention his name, but you guys can all, Snyder.
Yeah, Dan Snyder.
Dan Snyder. The guy's worth billions, but is that a guy you'd want as a friend?
No, I don't particularly, and I know him actually.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not about the Redskins, right? I'm not a huge Redskins. I would be. It's not the Redskins anymore, right?
I don't think we're he's wired the same. I think
Yeah,
the way he treats his teams or as the people that work for him, from what I've heard, it's just not a good environment.
exactly. Right. So some people in that are just, they've, I don't know how they got there, but they got there, whether it be a stroke of luck, whether it be, some stroke of genius, doesn't mean that's what you want to be like. And that's, that they're presenting the pattern that you want to follow.
But then you look at the others, like the leadership, like Elon Musk. You look at the Apple CEO.
Yeah. Right. But look at Steve Jobs. Right. Steve Jobs. Would you want to be raised by Steve Jobs?
I don't think I would have liked to have seen his style in person.
Yeah.
I don't think he was not a people person. That's for
no.
Sure.
I mean, YouTube Steve Jobs sometimes losing it, right?
Oh,
I mean,
you know what I think, but you also got to respect the man had so much vision and focus that he knew he bet everything he had multiple times and created. I think that's. I think there's a different wire for that.
Absolutely.
Class. I think Elon Musk has a little bit of it. It's almost like a genius level, I think, to be able to think so far outside the box.
And that is completely, I totally respect that, right? Where people are visionaries.
They built but he found the best people. They both have.
Yeah.
The best of the best of the best to create the concept.
Yeah. What's funny, I was talking, it was like the Virgin Atlantic guy, I forgot his name.
Oh, yeah, Robert Branson.
Richard Branson. So someone I was talking to said, well, they met Richard Branson. And I said, what was he like? He said, well, he does way better on stage, right? He does way better on commercials than he does sitting at a table with you, right? And I think that's true with a lot of these people.
I think most of them are introverts, actually.
Yeah.
They're not, there's so much processing in their heads and stuff. It's interesting to look at those guys to see how much stuff they just spit out.
Yeah.
And the impact that they put on the world.
Absolutely.
I mean.
Yeah. Well, I love my iPhone, right? And I love, the things that are Apple related. And, I look at what Steve Jobs and his genius is just absolutely amazing. But where I was going before is that something always seems to be sacrificed. There's very few in my limited history in life and understanding, but it seems like there's very few that get fame, fortune, power, and humility, right? It's the humility of those that draws you to them, right? We're fascinated by them from afar, but when they're humble and they have those things, then you say, wow, that's a regular person and someone you want to hang out with.
Do you think that humility comes from losing it all multiple times and being at rock bottom and building back up?
I think it can be, but then others will take that as a source of pride and say, look, I've lost it all and I built it back up. Look at me. I'm amazing. And then others, right?
That's personality traits there.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's, again, the human mind, the human being is a
complex,
very complex. Yeah. And that's why, in leadership, when we started talking about that, it's great to understand the different types we're not all alike, right?
You can't go in and be a bulldozer to someone's a complete introvert.
Have
you read the book, The Four Colors of Personalities? It breaks everybody down to like red, blue, green, and yellow, right?
Yeah. Okay. I like it.
It's the four colors of personality. It's only like a 150-page book. Great book. And it's big in our industry because it breaks down the personality types and shows you, especially if you're, I do a lot of training on room speaking and being able to control in my area. I like to kind of like study is between 150 and 1,000 in a room.
Okay.
And being able to relate a speech when you write a speech, the copy, that it's the mannerism. Make sure you hit to where you hit the four colors so you can relate to each person within the room. Instead of going in there and just being a talking head.
I see.
The dynamic, because being a good speaker is just as much showmanship
Mm-hmm.
and being able to relate as well, and being able to watch the movements. And it's one of my things I'm totally into right now, like just studying it hardcore, because
Yeah,
it just intrigues me. It's
it
back in my
is.
day. One of my careers that I had in the past was kind of in that industry as a professional disc jockey, and it's just amazing. It's just the psyche behind it.
Yeah, that's the relatable speaker. People. Lou Holtz. Did you ever watch him speak?
I don't think I've seen Lou before. No.
Oh my God. So if you want to see a diminutive person just light up a room of thousands,
Yep.
and you look at Lou Holtz, if you don't know who he is, come out onto the stage and you say, "Oh boy, what are we getting with this one?" And then the guy lights up the room, right? With stories.
That's the key. The stories are the key.
Right. Those stories will bring you to
Yep.
tears. And, the most motivating things in the world, I can do this, walk away, I will run through the wall of fire for Lou Holtz, that type of speech, but you wouldn't see it looking at the guy. So I can imagine when he was a college football coach, the people that were being recruited by him, it's like, well, there's Bear Bryant out there, and all these other Urban Myers, and these very fiery individuals. Lou Holtz was the complete opposite. And the guy's now 83 years old. I just heard him speak, and I just went, man, he hasn't lost a beat.
It's a true gift. It's an art that must be practiced, because you don't see a lot of up and coming today in it.
Yeah.
That's what intrigues me. And it's one of the most lucrative careers.
It is. I mean,
People don't
you can make $100,000 in a speech, right?
Yeah, I mean, 25 to 50 is the average for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
That's not a bad payday. I don't care.
No, I mean, some people are getting paid an entire year's salary,
but they
right?
can't speak. Come on,
Yeah.
What is it, Obama or something like that gets 450 to 500 grand for 33 minutes. Hillary gets 750 or something, and I'm like, and they're just reading off a prompter. I mean, they're not even like putting the heart into it.
No, it's has a lot to do with who they are, I think.
So I got one more question for you. In the industry that I work in, network marketing, a lot of people get into it thinking that they're going to get rich overnight. That's one of the bad stigmas that we totally don't practice. I've talked to you offline that we teach real sales skills in the process, and that it really is a 5 to 7 year commitment to setting yourself up with a secondary plan B that should yield, real money, 10, 15 grand a month if you play the cards right over time.
Yep.
The numbers don't lie. If you do the work, it pays, like anything else. But the question is I'm amazed at how many people, given the low cost of entry to this marketplace, typically $250 to $500, let's say, but give up on that. But yet they will work their career for 30 years to only be able to retire with 10, 15% of what they make. What's your thought on that?
Yeah. So there's negative press, right, with the network marketing, the multi-level marketing, and it's just the negativity of the get-rich-quick schemes that people have heard over the years. And, I can think of my wife was in Mary Kay for a while.
Okay.
And I met people that were crushing it, right? But they were working.
Yes.
Right. So the thing is if you do anything to be successful, you have to work at it. Right. So some people would just rather, they know the known. The known is if I do my job and I get paid by ABC company, I will make whatever, $50,000 a year, and I'll have a retirement of $400,000 when I retire, whatever those numbers work out to after 40 years, $10,000 a year, whatever. That's what they want. They'd rather take the solid, right? What's behind door number 2 or the $100 in my hand?
Yep.
Some are going to go for door number 2 and walk away with, a couple of guinea pigs, or they're going to walk away with the Mercedes, and others will just say, I'll take the $100 and forget about the guinea pigs or the Mercedes because I'd rather take what I can see.
It's so true. Here's another
Is
one.
that it?
Yeah. One other question for you. As a sales manager, okay, you're going to have high performers on any team you're on. But with the high performance comes a lot of risk. A lot of sales guys will fly right below the radar to just do what they have to do, make their money, and move on. Do you respect more the guy that's willing to go out there and totally crush it, even know that when the change of tides come, he will probably be the first one to be cut?
Yeah, that's always a challenge. I mean, I have lived that, and
all of us have sales managers,
right.
It sucks sometimes. I've seen it in corporate America to where guy was crushing it, and the reason why we had to let him go is because he had 2 extra kids on the health plan.
Yeah.
And sad.
You're right. Yeah. So you have to be very careful of those performers. I mean, I'm just thinking back in my career, most of them did something shady.
Okay.
And you have to be super careful of that because it's going to impact your company in the end. If you uncover something that you may be closing or winking at because they're bringing in tons of revenue.
Yep.
So you just have to be careful. And, once you get burned, then you realize that I got to start.
Just is really good. Because what happens is the reason why I even brought that question up is because I've seen it a lot of times, not in the network marketing industry. It is one of the few that you can build whatever you want and everybody wins below you as long as everybody's working. But in traditional corporate America, you get to a point to where you're making too much money.
Yeah.
The guy that's out there selling and making $500,000, yes, he's working hard, but from the ownership standpoint, it's like, we're paying this guy what?
Yeah, to sell this.
It happens.
Right. It does. Yeah. Still happens.
And
yeah, that's the way a lot of these, a lot of organizations back in 2009, when the market collapsed, that's what they did. They started looking at ways internally to cut costs to keep the profit numbers up.
3 to 1, they could bring on 4 new reps for a quarter of what they're paying him, and still probably cover the nut that he was bringing in.
Exactly.
But the smart sales guy, and to all you sales guys out there, keep your book of business. I don't care how good of an NDA you got. You still have a lifestyle and a life, and you can probably win most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they're only so tight.
Yeah.
Harry, so your podcast, Lead and Sell Grow, The Human Experience. I'm going to start listening to you. I listened to 1 or 2 of them the other day when I was driving. Very interesting. I think you and I have a lot in common, my friend.
This has really been an enjoyable conversation. And you got to look up the one with Ben Starling. I mean, that one, he is very entertaining. But they all are. We try to have some laughs and, but if you're looking like in sales and network marketing, one of the lines he said is, just really stands out with me. And I keep thinking about it is, who are you hanging out with?
It's so
not just for your friends, but
you got to be making more money than you. That's what they say. 5 people around you should double your salary.
Yeah.
Is what I believe. I've gotten pretty, I hang out with some pretty nice guys today, but you know what? I don't know if you're like me. It's hard for me to let people into my inner circle.
Yeah.
I have my college buddies that were still from high school that were like tight. We're all around the country, but I've lived in the same town for 18 years. And for me to call a guy up and say, hey, you want to grab a beer? I'm like, half of them we're just not on the same lateral path. I'm like, because I figure, this is a totally different. I think a guy should be able to like, hey, I want to go have a beer, and his wife shouldn't be able to stop him.
So I missed that part. What was that?
I said, I've come cut from the cloth to where if a guy after work wants to go have a beer for 20 minutes, it should, if it's not impacting anything major, the wife should be like, no, you should allow that to happen.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And I see it a lot to where like guys are really controlled, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah. And again, it's the healthy relationships, right, in life.
That's another show I'm gonna.
Yeah, we can do that another time.
That'd be a totally different conversation. That's all right.
Obviously, we left something on the table for the next conversation.
So next time on Network Freaking Marketing Radio. Hey guys, if you like what you're hearing on the show, I urge you go over to networkfreakingmarketing.com or ryanpennell.com. We give away a great free book, How I Made My First 5 million by Brian Carruthers. Click the right-hand side. Just give me your name and your email, and I will shoot it right off to you. If you have any questions, put it on Facebook. We'd love to get your information. Harry, I want to thank you so much for coming out on the show today. It was a blast. This will be out next week, and we'll go from there.
This is fun. Thank you for having me, Ryan. It's great.
Let me just quit recording here. Hang on a sec.
Hey guys, it's Ryan here from Network Freaking Marketing Radio. If you like what we're doing, head over to iTunes and give us a like.